Good evening, everyone. Tonight is Tuesday, April 16th, 2019, and this is the Board of Selectmen meeting. If I could ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, do we have any amendments to the agenda?
I do not.
I'm on the floor. I don't have raisins. No, I'll follow.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Agenda approved. All right, we have a couple of announcements. The annual town election will take place on Monday, April 22nd, 2019 in the Great Hall of Town Hall. The polls will open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. The Air Parks Department will be hosting an Easter egg hunt on Saturday, April 20th, 2019 at 12 p.m. at Peroni Park. And the annual town meeting will take place on Monday, May 13th, 2019 at 7 p.m. in the auditorium of the Ayer Shirley Regional High School, 141 Washington Street. Why does that light feel a little strange to me? Anyone here for public input? Okay. A little early. No, I'm sorry. The public hearing is not till 7:10. Okay. All right then, so we have an approval of a USDA loan?
Yep. Madam Chair, through you, I'd ask the town treasurer, Barbara Tierney, and our bond counsel, Peter Frazier, to come up.
Okay.
Another chair.
There we go. Thank you, Peter.
Feels like clarification.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. So here we are just to get a vote for the Board of Selectmen to approve the USDA water and sewer bond payable. This was a project that was started back in 2015, and we have current bans outstanding that this bond will now repay. It is, tonight we just need to do a vote as the Selectmen. Who reads that? The clerk's got. Okay, so the clerk will read that.
Just the whole paragraph? The whole thing here?
Yes.
All right.
Do you want
You might want to take a drink of water.
No, it'll be okay. I, the clerk of the Board of Selectmen of the town of Ayer, Massachusetts, aka the town, certify that a meeting of the board held on April 16th, 2019, of which meeting all members of the board was duly notified and at which a quorum was present. The following votes were unanimously passed, all of which appear upon the official records of the board in my custody. Voted that the sale of the following 2.875% bond of the town dated May 3rd, 2019, aka the bond, $1,230,352 water and sewer bond payable annual principal installments of $34,177 on May 3rd in each of the years 2020 through 2054, inclusive, and $34,157 on May 3rd in the year of 2055, with interest thereon calculated for May 3rd, 2019. To the United States of America, acting through the Rural Utilities Services, United States Department of Agriculture at par in accrued interest, if any, is hereby confirmed. The board hereby covenants with the registered owner from time to time of the bond that the town shall maintain rates and charges for the use of the town's water and sewer systems in an amount which, together with other available funds, shall be sufficient to pay all costs of the operating system and the entire principal of and interest on the bond and all the indebtedness of the town incurred for municipal water and sewer purposes as they become due. The bond shall nevertheless be general obligation of the town, payable from any of all available revenues, including revenues derived from ad valorem taxes levied in accordance with the law upon all taxable property in the town, subject to the limit imposed by Chapter 59, Section 21C of the general laws. Further voted that the annual installment amount shall be subsequently amended by the United States of America, acting through the Rural Utilities Service, United States Department of Agriculture, to make minor rounding or computation adjustments, and we hereby authorize the treasurer to approve such minor changes in the bond, in the payment schedule, provided that the principal amount, interest rate, and term of the bond remain unchanged. Further voted that the bond shall be subject to redemption upon such terms and conditions set forth in the bond. Further voted that each member of the Board of Selectmen, the town clerk, the town treasurer, and any other officials of the town be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, and other documents as they may be determined by them or any of them to be necessary or convenient to carry into effect the provisions of the foregoing votes. I further certify that the votes were taken at a meeting open to the public and that no vote was taken by secret ballot, that the notice of stating the place, date, time, and agenda for the meeting, which the agenda included the adoption of the above votes, was filed to the town clerk. A copy thereof posted in the town bulletin board in a manner conspicuously visible to the public at all hours in or on the municipal building of the office of the town clerk is located, or if applicable, in accordance with an alternative method of notice prescribed or approved by the Attorney General as set forth in 940 CMR 29.03 subsection 2B, at least 48 hours, not including Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays, prior to the time of the meeting and remain so posted at the time of the meeting, that no deliberations or decisions in connection with the sale of the bond were taken in executive session in accordance with General Law, Chapter 30A, subsections 18 through 25 as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye.
Everybody can wake up now.
I forgot how long that was until you were reading it.
So Scott,
Yes.
those three just need to be signed by you,
Okay.
and then this can be done after, but this one needs a signature of all 4 selectmen, and then I can sign it afterwards and have it done by the town clerk.
Great.
And there's a tab for every page that needs a signature.
Awesome.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you.
No.
It does not.
Very well, though.
No, it doesn't.
Stutter, nothing. That's impressive. Okay.
That's the reason right there, Scott. You need a chair.
All right, so is National Grid here? Okay, well, actually, you can come on up while he opens the public hearing.
Sorry, so many things to do.
Multitasking, not your thing.
Okay, the Ayer Board of Selectmen will be conducting a public hearing on Tuesday, April 16th, 2019 at 7:05 p.m. at Ayer Town Hall, first floor meeting room, 1 Main Street, Ayer, Massachusetts, 01432, regarding the application by National Grid, number 147-04433, to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way. Pearl Street, National Grid to install 1 SO pole on Pearl Street beginning at a point approximately 12 feet west of the center line. National Grid to install push brace to the north of the pole 1 on Pearl Street, support pole 1 on Pearl Street. Copies of the application are available at the Ayer Board of Selectmen's office Monday, Wednesday, Thursdays from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Tuesdays 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Fridays 8 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. That's pretty much it. We just need to put the push brace to support pole 1 right there at the corner on Pearl
When you
Street.
say push brace, you mean like a...
Push brace it's another utility pole, basically, so here's your main utility pole that's on the corner of Pearl Street, and it's another pole that we take and put like that, a little bit lower, but it's still a utility pole, and it just goes at an angle. It needs a little more support than a normal guy wire, which is what you normally see on a pole, so that's why we need to do the push brace.
Okay. All right. Any concerns, comments from the public? Okay.
I make a motion to grant the approval for push brace Nicole outlined by the clerk on Pearl Street.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all have a nice
Thank you.
evening.
And then I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And the public hearing is closed. All right. FinCom tonight. Is that it? No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, wrong thing.
Wrong joint session.
I'm telling you, the light's bothering me tonight. It's the joint appointment of the Ayer Shirley Regional School District Committee member.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Through you, if there is an objection, I'd ask Ms. Granger and Ms. Simmons, representatives from Ayer on the Ayer Shirley Regional School Committee, to join the joint appointment.
Hey.
Hi.
How are you? Hi. Hi.
And Madam Chair, just for the record, as the board is aware, a vacancy for an Ayer representative on the committee presented itself with the resignation of Mr. Dan Gleason. Upon that resignation, in accordance with the regional school agreement as well as the school committee's policy manual, the vacancy has to be advertised for at least 7 days for interested applicants to apply. We did post that April 1st through April 11th. We posted it here at Town Hall as well as on the town's various electronic social media. And we received one applicant, Mr. Joe Leone of Ayer, submitted his application for consideration. So we do have one candidate, and as the chair is aware, the joint committee shall interview candidates and then deliberate, and if there is a motion and second by a simple majority, that individual would fulfill that vacancy till the next election, which will be in April of 2020. So it's almost a one-year term. And I believe Mr. Leone is here tonight. So. In the back.
Back on the end.
Why don't you come on up?
Just like that.
Welcome.
Thank you.
If it's all right, if you'd like to say a few words about yourself?
I don't know, what do you want to know? I'm retired educator. I was a teacher and coach at Concord Carlisle High School for 40 years. 1 year before that in South Paris, Maine. I'm now a member of this community for the last 15 years. My grandchildren are here in town and attend middle school and Page Hilltop. Obviously, you know, through 40 years of education, have a very vested interest in education. And with my grandkids being members of this particular school district, have a very interested in this school district. So I served on the committee that selected our latest superintendent. I was on the Hall of Fame committee, even though I didn't know anybody in this town. But through my experiences, Dan Gleason reached out to me to help them get their school, their Hall of Fame started, and was glad to be part of that process. So anything else you'd like to know? I'm an open book.
No, I think it's great. You have a great educational background. We're excited to have you on board and work with you and tap some of that knowledge.
My oldest grandchild told me that if I get on the school committee, that I need to work on no school on Wednesdays.
Why Wednesdays, out of curiosity?
Just to.
Well, I have found that if I
split up
have
the
to take
week.
a Wednesday off, Wednesday is like the best day to take off.
She was like, no qualms about it. We were talking about it at a family dinner, and she said, her mother was trying to ask her, and she didn't even finish the question, and she just blurted out, "No school on Wednesday." So.
She willing to work longer hours on?
Well, there actually is precedence. There is precedence for it around the country, but but anyway.
Not a bad idea.
I think some area towns do half days on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Different days,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I know Littleton.
There's
I
a
think,
school in
so.
California that does Wednesdays off, where they do 10-hour day, or not 10-hour, but 8-hour days, I think, to make up so that they have the right number of hours. But it's an interesting
Yeah,
concept.
definitely.
Gentlemen, any questions?
Is there anything specific you would like to accomplish on the school committee?
Besides the Wednesdays?
Well, in just being a member, I think I need to, get the lay of the land, figure out what things are all about, what issues there are. I'm very well aware of the Fields controversy and an issue. I am very, very pro-field. As a coach, I coach football, basketball, and baseball at Concord Carlisle, and I can't tell you how strongly I feel that having good fields for our kids to play on is extremely important. But other than that, I have no other agenda.
Excellent, thank you.
Anything else?
I'm good. I would like to make a motion to nominate Mr. Joe Leone for the 1-year remaining term of Mr. Gleason on the school committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye.
Congratulations, Joe.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Can I just take a minute to publicly thank Dan Gleason?
Absolutely. I was going to do the same thing.
Yeah,
Go right
his
ahead.
time on the board, he really did a lot for our schools, for our town. He was with us through the transformation of regionalization, and then on board, obviously, through the development of the district, and we were really, really fortunate to have him, and his passion and his dedication, and he'll be missed, but we're excited, to have Mr. Leone on board, and I just want to make sure that everybody knows the contribution that Dan made. If you don't know Dan,
He went above and beyond what, anybody has ever done.
Yeah.
For many years, tirelessly, so.
Yeah, he was on board in the school committee for at least 11 years.
11 years.
I think so, 11 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when it was Ayer on its own, Ayer School Committee and then the region. So
Right.
we're definitely lucky to have him.
Yes.
I agree.
I too want to thank Dan Gleason for everything that he's done. He was definitely an asset. He'd definitely be missed, but
He'll still be around.
he'll still be
Yeah.
around. I'm sure we'll hear from him and he'll always be welcomed.
Yeah.
All right.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your new committee member.
Excuse me.
Dr. Malone.
We've had more people the last 3 meetings in 2 years.
I know, I start getting, I start getting it. Why are there so many people? Yeah, exactly. Welcome.
Welcome. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Board of Selectmen, Town Manager Robert Pompian and Assistant Town Manager Carly Antonellis. I want to thank you for putting us on the agenda this evening. We really appreciate it. And if I may say a few words about Mr. Dan Gleason.
Absolutely.
I would like to second what Ms. Granger talked about with Mr. Gleason's dedication and resolve to work in the best interests of the school district and the students and their families. And from my perspective, as being one of my bosses, he was excellent to work with, very supportive, and I really want to publicly state my thanks to Mr. Gleason. And I'm sure he will still be around and still be involved. And we appreciate that, because even if you're not serving on a board, we want community involvement, and so hopefully he now becomes that community member.
Excellent.
Okay. So our agenda item tonight is the FY19 budget. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Plunkett. He's going to explain to you what happened with our excess and deficiency and why we're before you tonight to ask for your support in certifying our amended FY19 budget and hopefully respectfully request that you will agree to send a letter to the Department of Revenue that you approve of the amended budget and the waiving the 45-day requirement. So we have two documents to give you.
We should three handouts.
Yeah, we're going to start with the FY19 certified budget. This is the budget that was actually certified by the school committee and approved at town meeting last year. So pass through that way and two this way. And then we're going to give you a copy of the FY19 certified budget that was amended and approved by school committee on April 10th, 2019. And then the last document are the letters that you already received, but we'd like to give them to you again, so you have them fresh in your packet. So Mr. Plunkett will explain to you why we're before you this evening, and he'll start with the FY18 budget.
Okay.
That was certified originally. Okay, Mr. Plunkett?
I'd like to start with our FY17 E&D was certified last March. On March 6th, the school committee, with the E&D certified, voted to approve the transfers of $520,000, $300,000 to the SPED Reserve Fund, $200,000 to the Capital Stabilization Fund, and $20,000 to an OPEB contribution fund to be added to the FY19 budget as transfers from E&D. We added it to the budget. We added it to the reserve fund section of the budget, and subsequently during the certification of the FY18 E&D, the DOR has identified a procedural error, and I'll direct you to the letter that's addressed to the chair and Mr. Pomprion. The procedural error that was discovered was that the district transfers of $520,000 were not broken out properly in the FY19 budget workbook. That is the document you have here. The first one was March 23rd, and then the amended budget on 4/10/19. The transfer amounts were included in the reserve fund section on page 18 of the March 23rd budget. If you go to page 18, you will see they were listed as part of the capital stabilization, SPED reserve, and retirement benefits lines, and they were included in the grand total that was provided for town meeting and approved at town meeting. That was the March 23rd budget that went to town meeting. The correct procedure calls for the transfers to be listed in the general fund expenditure section. So if you look at the April 10th amended budget by the regional school committee, the general fund section of expenses, the top section, you'll see now there are three lines broken out. One for the capital stabilization fund and $200,000, transfer to SPED reserve of $300,000, and the transfer to OPEB contribution for $20,000. Those have to be broken out in the general fund expenditure section of the budget. There also has to be a listing of the revenue, and that is on page 1 as well. In the revenue section, you'll see those same lines are broken out as revenue from E&D. This was brought to our attention by the Director of Accounts at the DOR, and they're holding up our FY18 certification because of this procedural error. So we have corrected with the amended budget that the school committee just amended last week on the 10th of April. We've corrected the procedural error, and we have also been directed by the DOR that the local appropriating authority has the right to waive the 45-day wait period for considering an amendment to the budget because there's no change in the assessment to the towns. The expenses listed in the general fund and broken out in the revenue section are no net effect to the assessment. The assessment stays the same. So we are asking respectfully that you would consider waiving the 45-day period and approve the amended budget as it was the intent of the school committee to have these transfers included in the FY19 budget, and that was approved at town meeting last year.
Any questions, anyone? All right, so you would like a motion to...
Two motions, right?
Two motions?
Can we do them together? Or?
What they're saying would be to waive and to consider it amended.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to waiver the 45-day consideration and approve the district's amended FY19 budget as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Yes.
And Madam Chair, if there is an objection from the board, the letter, the superintendent would like the letter that's in your packet signed by the chair and myself.
Okay.
And it's basically stating the waiving of the 45 days and the approval of basically this motion. So if there's no objection to that.
I'll give that to you right now, so you guys can take it.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you.
We spoke with the Director of Accounts at the DOR, and that's what she stated should be on the letter, those points that you just mentioned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your support.
Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Carlos Obregon?
Yes.
Okay, did I pronounce it right?
Yes.
Okay, good. And you're here for an application for a Class 2 used auto cars permit?
Correct.
Okay. Tell us all about it.
We just bought 1 Bishop Road, the old three-phase building. So I moved, I've been in Shirley. I'm sure you know.
I'm like, I've been trying to place you.
Yeah. As soon as I sat down, I was like, then it hit me, Eric. As you know, I've been in business a long time in Shirley, and I outgrew that building. So we bought 1 Bishop Road. We're detailing there, all specialty stuff, restoration on old cars. I have a showroom also. I'll be selling accessories for, cars, auto, truck, wheels, tires, all that stuff. And I also want to do specialty cars and, used cars.
Okay. Any questions?
I'm glad to see the building finally sold.
Beautiful building. I can't believe it took that long.
A good spot.
Yeah, it's great.
for,
Fits me perfect.
Yeah. There was no objections from any department heads or anybody else?
No.
From what I could tell.
Department head review,
Yeah.
there's a couple comments.
Yeah.
There was an initial feedback from conservation.
Yeah, I
I
saw
spoke, with Carlos, and that's all taken care of.
Right.
Conservation.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And we brought a bond,
Yeah,
as
we
you
have a
asked.
bond if you want it.
Yep, definitely, thanks.
What about Mark's comments? Which I can't, what is he saying in his writing? The site plan
Site
for
plan.
where there's gonna be cars parked, et cetera? Because he's concerned about drainage. The developer should attempt to comply with stormwater requirements.
So, in the middle of the existing parking lot for customers,
Right.
there is a storm drain right in the middle of the parking lot that the prior owner had installed. I mean, he spent quite a lot of money on drainage, from what I understand. In the area I want to put the used cars, it's not going to affect the existing parking lot. As you're facing the building, you have the parking lot area, and to the right of it, you have a grassy area,
Okay.
which I own to the telephone poles according to the plot plan. So it's maybe 25, 30 feet wide. So that's where I want to put the used cars.
I'll do it, so I'm sorry. So I'm not. I have a few photos, it just might be helpful.
Okay.
Sometimes visuals are good.
There's a few.
Huh, that's a good picture.
Perfect.
Yeah, it looks better up there.
So where,
So, yes, it does. So where the sign is right now on that Honda, that's the area I'm talking about.
Okay.
Will you be paving that?
That's the plan.
So where the car is, you'd be paving it?
Yes.
Okay. But that won't affect the stormwater?
No, you can, I don't know if you can see the drain. There's literally a drain right, yeah, and then on past the grass where the driveway is, there's another drain there, which from what the old owner told me, I kind of control it. He had a a pump installed at the bottom of that drain, so when it gets bad, I flip a switch in my building and it drains that water.
You're flipping too fast.
Okay. I didn't see any, no, I didn't see any other comments, so that was just the only one, so.
Town planner had a comment, and Alan had a memo.
Oh, here's this, okay.
The town plan looks
Yep.
terrible.
I know. Took me a while.
I can help if need be.
You can read that?
On the bottom right-hand corner says okay with Charlie, so he's talking to the building commissioner about that.
Yeah, when he originally submitted it, it was, I need to check with Charlie, and I said, please do that before the selectmen see it.
Okay.
Yeah, so Charlie is okay with that.
Okay.
Then there, on the last page of it, is a memo from Alan. So, I mean, he's here if he wants to.
How many cars do you anticipate having in inventory?
Yeah, I thought I put 10 on the application, yeah. Yeah, I don't want to clutter it up, I want it to be, you know, to look presentable, I don't want just a bunch of cars.
Right. Okay.
And you're moving your business, your whole business over from Shirley? Or
I'm pretty much in there now, I mean, I'm just finishing up.
You're not keeping two places? Like
No.
I have no issues.
I have no issues.
I'd like to make a motion for a Class 2 used auto sales to Mr. Carlos
Obregon
for 1 Bishop Road, as outlined in the packet.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again. Thank you all for your time.
I'll get this signed tonight, and then I'll be in touch tomorrow and
Perfect.
pick it up.
Perfect, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right. Alicia. Hi, Alicia.
Hi, how is everybody?
And you?
Good, good, thank you. So, the fiscal year for program income, and this is program income from our rehab program, our housing rehab program, is April 1st to March 31st. And the rules, this is part of DHCD, and the rules on program income is if this town takes in more than $35,000, I have to report on our program income every year. And if the town takes more than $35,000, it is tied to the state. And then we have to put in a request on how to spend it, okay? And last year, we brought in, as I said, $85,813.58. And this was from 3 properties, one of which never even got, so for the first 5 years, when we do a rehab, the loan does not go down at all. This is to discourage speculation from investors, okay? And after that, it starts going down. They don't have to pay it back, but it goes down. It's amortized at 0% for, 10 years, and it starts going down. But 2 of these loans were hardly, one had gone down some, one had not gone down at all. So we got back quite a bit of money. And I'm recommending right now that we roll, and I need to, when I report this to the state, I need to just give them 2%. And then I also have to give them a request for how we spend the money. And the state's been trying very hard to get a handle on program income that's out there all over the state. And so they've changed some of the rules, and we're just trying to be up to speed on it, because else it sits in accounts and doesn't get used, or gets used inappropriately. So my recommendation, the last time we went over the 35,000 was in 2013, 2014, I think it was, and we were at 65,000, and we rolled that back into housing rehab. Of that, we had about 8,000 left over, and that's why you're seeing the 95,000 that we didn't use that was tied to the state. So I'm rolling it all together, so we're talking about 95,000. Now, actually, it's going to be closer to 93 because I have to put 2% back to the state. But anyway, my recommendation is that we roll 51,000 into housing rehab. And then for housing rehab, we need program delivery, that's a inspector to make sure everything's up to speed. And then administration, we can take it 10% to run the office with and to administer that money. And so that's 14,000. Now, I put 20,000 into writing a housing production plan. This town does not currently have a housing production plan, and a housing production plan will help us in our goals for our master plan, but also for our 40B goals. With a housing production plan, we get to, well, for example, on a 40B that you don't like, if you're going to make it an unfriendly 40B, you can actually, if the town has a housing production plan, the state will look more kindly at the town's view on whether they're going to, refuse the 40B or not, because it means that we're planning, we're moving forward. And so getting a housing production plan in place is important. I know I'm giving you a lot of information very quickly. We've just put together our Affordable Housing Committee, and this is the first goal on the Affordable Housing Committee, is to put together a housing production plan. So I have put together a grant for MRPC, DLTA, District Local Technical Assistance application for a housing production plan, and there's a chance that we won't have to spend anything. It would just have our office and the housing committee putting in time. But if that doesn't happen, I'd like to have some money put aside to do a housing production plan. So this 20,000 is a little bit loose. I might come back to you and say, hey, we got the technical assistance, we don't need to spend the 20,000, we got to decide how we're going to do that. But right now, I need to report to the state, so this is how I've set it up. Any questions or comments?
Did you need a motion?
Yes,
Okay.
down at the bottom.
Throw a lot at us.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm totally.
So that's why I'm saying,
Yeah, I see it. I'd make a motion.
no, do you want to talk about it at all? I mean, or is it
No,
okay?
I think I was just joking. I think we get it.
Okay,
You did talk a little fast, but.
okay. It's just a lot of stuff to go
Yeah.
through.
Agreed. I would make a motion that the Board of Selectmen approve the FY18 program income proposed budget as outlined by Ms. Hersey, the Community Development Program Manager.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair
Okay.
says aye.
Thank you. That's all I needed. Thank you.
What's her
Thanks,
name in the
Jim.
magnet?
Oh, so see, the star, it went from 27 to 92. That was with that resizing problem.
Okay. All right.
And we didn't notice it till today.
Oh, okay. No wonder I
Yeah, I was looking at the package.
was like,
It's a
okay.
long packet, there's a lot.
Yeah.
On every subject, this is
So,
about 20 pages.
yeah, I didn't even pick up on that, so, okay. All right, what do we got here? All right, so, Mark. Nice to see you again. I haven't seen you in so long.
Seems like only yesterday, or this morning.
This morning.
So, I think you remember in the middle of March, I came and gave you an update on the PFAS. Well, I got a new update. And I don't really have all of the information because things are happening a little bit quickly, and I'm not really sure why, but last Monday I got a call from the Mass DEP that said that there was going to be a new recommended limit for PFAS, and I needed to start putting together a plan. And they didn't really tell me what I needed to do for a plan, but it would mean basically if the levels that they're talking about lowering the limit to, and remember, these are recommended limits, they're not what we call maximum contaminant levels, they're not regulated limits, but it would mean that all of our wells would need to be treated. So all of Grove Pond and Olive Speck Pond. So knowing that the town meeting warrant was closing, and so I talked to Robert about some options, and so I figured I'd give everybody an update. Like I said, things are happening pretty quickly. We're meeting with DEP on Thursday morning to go through this. But we haven't really talked about Spectacle Pond water because it's present in the water, but it was always below the 70 parts. But if they change the limit down to what some other states have, then we're going to have a problem. So anyway, I have a few copies of the presentation to hand out.
I can put some on the table if you want to
Let's see. One thing just to mention that the PACE group in town, People of Air Concerned About the Environment, are hosting a PFAS public forum on April 23rd. That's Tuesday up at the high school at 7 o'clock. This is a program that they put together. I will be speaking about what the town's issues are and what the town is doing, but I assume it's more to inform the public about some of the potential issues. They have some professors or researchers from Northeastern and an organization called Silent Spring are coming. So I think everybody's heard this before. PFAS, it's a per and polyfluoroalkyl substance. They're what we call forever chemicals. There's I think literally thousands of them that have been used in different consumer products and other industrial applications. It's what we call an unregulated drinking water contaminant. What happens into the Safe Drinking Water Rule is they every 5 years come up with a list of contaminants that they want to see if there is a problem in the drinking water. And so this was one of the what they call emerging contaminants that was regulated. I want to say that was 2015 was when the testing was done, and air was not required to test. But because we're close to Devon's, and Devon's found it in their water, the DEP decided to test our wells. And the EPA does have a health advisory, and again, I'd emphasize the word advisory level of 70 parts per trillion for both two of the chemicals, PFOS and PFOA. The state wanted to be a little more conservative, so last June they set a limit of a recommended level of 70 parts per trillion for 5 of the compounds, and PFOS and PFOA are 2 of those 5. And all of our wells had some level. Well 8 was over the 70, so we've turned that well off. Well 7 has now crept up to 70, but right now we're running well 6 and 7 together, and well 6 is much lower, so we blend those two, and also run number 1, which is the lowest of those. So well number 8 was shut off last February. We blend 6 and 7. It's about 50 parts per trillion in the blended water. We're working with the Army Corps. They're in the process of putting in temporary treatment for well 8, which will then blend with wells 1, 6, and 7, and we can manage those wells to have that supply, provide probably about 1 million gallons a day maximum below a level of 20 parts. But it's going to require everything working just right. And we usually use over 1 million gallons a day. It's about 1.4. In the summer, it can go as high as 2.4. We sample the wells quarterly. The Spectacle Pond wells, which is is our new problem. One of the wells is at 28 parts per trillion and the other is at 37. So combined, they're about 30, 31 blended.
What do you think the source is over there?
I have several
transfer station in Littleton, isn't that above?
Well, there's their closed landfill, which is across the pond. Generally, you don't see a lot of contaminants migrating across water, but one thing with PFAS is it can be transferred airborne. Another option is if there was ever any fire at the substation where they had to use foam to put out an electrical fire, that could be a source. I've talked to the fire chief, and he doesn't remember any incidents like that. So, but that's one of the places we would probably take a look at and see if there was any history. And then also the Sandville precast plant. They use a lot of chemical additives in their concrete, and also in one of my theories is in the form release agent that they put on the concrete forms, so the concrete doesn't stick to the form. And that's what PFAS is. They use it for a lot of non-stick coatings. So I'm working with the DEP to start looking at what the sources are, and they'll kind of take a broad view and look at all the different land uses around there and see if we can start pinpointing where that problem is. But I never would have expected to see it at that well field. And it shows that there are a lot of vulnerable water supplies in the state that probably haven't been tested yet. So Mass DEP regulatory issue, and this is where I should have put a big bullseye target up there that's moving around the screen, because that's what we have here. We have a moving target that we're trying to figure out what are we trying to do and when do we have to do it by. So as I mentioned, the state came out with their Office of Research and Standards, came out with a guidance of 70 parts per trillion for the 5 chemicals. In March this year, and I actually went to the meeting last week, they started the process of setting a true maximum contaminant level, which would require all water systems to test for the chemical and would set a level that you'd have to treat to. And that's about a 1-year process. So I'm very involved in that process. The OSRG recommended that consumers in sensitive subgroups, which are pregnant women, nursing mothers, and infants, not consume water when the level above the 5 PFAS substances individually or in combination is above 70 parts per trillion. And we put that out as a public notice last year. And they also, public water suppliers shall take steps to expeditiously lower the levels of the 5 PFAS individually or in combination to below 70 parts per trillion for all consumers. The 70 parts per trillion for all consumers, not the sensitive population, is based on a long-term exposure of drinking a certain amount of water. I think it's 2 liters of water a day for 70 years. Then that increases your chances of having health issues. We are following both of those by making sure all of our water is below 70 parts per trillion, and in the process of we're just about to bid out the $4 million treatment for Grove Pond, as well as put in some temporary treatment in the meantime. So what started this all was Mass Waste Site Cleanup is in the process of setting a level for if there's a hazardous waste site, what you have to clean that level, that groundwater level up to. And that process is just beginning. They are going to publish it this Friday. And then there's, I think, about a 2-month period of comment, and that's what sort of triggered why we're here today, because that standard is more likely what the DEP drinking water standard will become. So it's not a national standard. As I mentioned, the EPA has a PFOS and PFOA health advisory of 70 for the sum of the two, but some other states have come up with their own limits, and I think this is another thing that's driving the DEP to relook at what they've come up with. It's kind of curious, because now remember, we're talking about parts per trillion. It's not much. and I'm not sure why one is 13 and one is 14, and why they're not both 15 or 10, or I'm not really sure where those numbers come from, unless it has something to do with the treatability. But you can see, those are the few states that actually have levels, and most of the other states are somewhat following the EPA value, but I don't think it's as much of an issue in other states. There's plenty of information. If people ask me about, is the water safe to drink, or what's a safe level, I can't really tell them. I'm not qualified. There's a lot of information. I suggest people go on the web, go to sites like this one. This is part of the CDC's website, so that you know it's science-based, and make your own decisions on what you think the health impacts could be for you based on what we have in our water. So, as I mentioned, I was informed last week about the DEP is looking at changing their level, and they are going to be sending us a letter next week, similar to the letter we got last year. They have not revised or established an MCL or a new guidance. All of our wells are currently over 20 parts per trillion. I'm confident Grove Pond well, with the temporary treatment in place, which should be in about probably 8 weeks, can be blended to under 20 parts. And all of Devon's, which we have an interconnection with, all of their wells are also only over 20. So we can't help them and they can't help us. And Spec Pond Wellfield is critical for us to providing an adequate supply of water. We could get by for a day or two on just one supply, but we really can't for more than a few days. So what are we doing? We're developing some action plans. The first one is that I've talked to our engineers, and I want them to look at, can we use the same treatment that we're putting in at Grove Pond to treat Spec Pond, which would make it fairly easy because we wouldn't have to go back through and do all the testing, and redesign it, would make the engineering much more efficient. We do have limited locations at Spec Pond, so we're going to do a survey, look at where the wetlands are, where the land area is, develop a cost and schedule, and I'm also working with the DEP. We have state revolving loan fund money, which is basically very low interest loan money, and with there's some other advantages that we obtained for Grove Pond, but since the Army is paying for that, we don't have to use that. So I'm trying to get that funding switched so that we can have it targeted for Spec Pond. We're going to meet with Mass DEP on Thursday and get a little better guidance. Robert will work his magic with them and tell them, like, we can't wave the magic wand. We will, once we know what's going on, we'll do a public notification to all of our water users. And then some of the things that I've looked at is we could add temporary treatment at Spec Pond. That is fairly expensive for temporary treatment. I think the Army Corps is paying about $500,000 for the system at Grove Pond. So I would estimate we'd be in that $400,000 to $500,000. One of the other options we could do, if we find that we can treat it with the same process that we're using at Grove Pond, we could buy the actual permanent treatment units, install them temporarily, and then build a building around that. So it wouldn't actually, the $400,000 or $500,000 wouldn't go to waste. Other potential actions, I strongly recommend that we institute an outdoor water ban. I don't believe we can afford to put 600,000, 700,000, 800,000 gallons a day on people's lawns when we're doing a lot of expensive treatment and have limited capabilities. I'm looking at the options of either providing bottled water or point-of-use filters. Both of them have costs, administrative issues, and there's also limited, for instance, with bottled water, there's only a couple that the state have tested that have said you can use this bottled water. And so we're putting together some costs and some options for if we had to do that, how we would do it. Point-of-use filters are filters that people can install either on their taps or somewhere under their sink that will give them, for drinking water, PFAS pure water. I found an alternative that I like that was fairly inexpensive and easy to implement. The state said they hadn't tested it, so they would not approve that option. They recommended one that cost about $1,000 per installation. I don't think we want to start.
They're really loose with the money, right? I mean, they just tell us what, we gotta spend.
Well, they don't tell you you have to. They tell you what they wouldn't approve. So again, so we're getting a little closer, but and what they're basically saying is, well, Hudson has the same problem, and this is what they're doing. Devon's has a problem, and this is what they're doing. Devon's is a little different. They only have about 400 water customers, and Hudson also has a responsible party that's paying for everything. So, so we're working on that. So we also talked about if we wanted to put an article on town meeting to transfer the money that we appropriated for Grove Pond to use at Spectacle Pond, and decided it was probably better to come up with a plan and costs before we actually start doing that. So what I'd recommend is that when I have some better numbers, that I'd ask that the board would approve the use of UDAG money to begin implementation.
Are there any other, is there railroad, right, any of the businesses on, is there anything that?
That's one of the things that we would look at, some of the businesses, what their history has done. Remember, this stuff can be from 10, 15 years ago. And so what the DEP waste site cleanup group would actually do all that legwork for us. So they'd look at all the different land uses around the area, research what those uses were. They can request information from them under the 21E law. And they have a lot more resources, and it's just, we're just me and Dan.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just, the railroad comes to mind, but they're so environmentally friendly.
Oh, yeah, and that's one of the items, or one of the, we have a few fingers we could point down there, but we're not really sure. And I tried looking at, railroad with PFAS on the internet and concrete plants with PFAS, and there's no information, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a connection. So that's, that's the update. It's not good news, and it's going to be a long summer, but I think, the residents have been really supportive and understand that we're doing the best we can, and we're making progress, and we're protecting the public health as best we can. And I think, one of the issues, as I mentioned, it is a moving target. No one really knows what the level should be. You would think that the EPA, when they came up with a level that would be pretty scientifically sound, and then when the DEP then takes all their information plus any new information and comes up with a limit, that would be pretty scientifically sound. But then they start looking at, well, why is Vermont 20? And so
shouldn't they make every town test though? Like, it feels like
they should, but they don't have there's no way they can do that. There's no mechanism yet that
does Littleton
requires
have
them.
to test now because they're the same water supply, right? Just on the other side of the lake.
Littleton has not had to test. Groton has not tested.
Just let everything.
There were a number of private, I think two of the private what we call community water systems for condos in Harvard, on this side of Route 2, going up Ayer Road, were positive. I think they were below the 70, but they were definitely positive for PFAS. Shirley was not, and they only tested Walker Road. I don't think they tested their other well.
So are you going to well test, seeing it's in the aquifer?
Some of your neighbors have asked me about that, and we don't really have a means or a budget for doing private wells. That could be something that we could work with the Board of Health on. And maybe now that, with Spec Pond, that we have to do action, maybe that there can be some monies appropriated for doing the wells. All the private wells we tested from Devon's were based on, the Army Corps did that as part of their investigation. So that was paid for through their super fund. And speaking of Devon's, we do have a meeting here about the Devon's cleanup and all the activities they're doing. That is Thursday night at, I think it's 6:30, is that quite right? And that's here. So if anyone wants to know what they're up to.
Is that the RAB? board?
RAB, yeah.
Oh, they never booked their room yet, but it's good to know. Thank you. Good to know.
So I also want to let everyone know that Congresswoman Lori Trahan was here today, and Mark was able to give her an update on the PFAS. So I tell you that too, because I want you to understand that it's the local, it's the state, and even the federal. Everyone, we have a lot of people involved in watching this. He gave pretty much what he just gave us, and so hopefully if there's a problem we can contact her and get some help. But the good news is that there are a lot of eyes on this from a lot of different levels, so hopefully that'll all work out in our favor.
And then next year they lower the price from million to 10?
Well, interestingly, there was the reason the state started their MCL, maximum contaminant level, setting process is that there was a meeting, I forget what they call it, if it was an informational meeting or something, in Boston. Oh, I know, there was some people sent a petition to DEP requesting that they set an MCL, so they had a hearing on that I attended. And the Conservation Law Foundation and Toxic Action Group, who filed the petition, wanted instead of an MCL, they wanted basically to have a treatment requirement so that would be below detectable limits. So, which is about 1.87 is the detectable limit, 1.87 parts per trillion. Uh-oh, is that my car? So that's what, a lot of people are saying it should be zero. When you're looking at parts per trillion, I don't know if there's, one part per trillion, what's that? One molecule? We got any chemists here? So it's not much. And it is a chemical that we're all exposed to every day. So,
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think that too, that we're learning more and more, every day. But like you said, it's in the material that we use every day. So for all we know, is that kicking it up into an airborne without every time we walk on our rug and everything, is that kicking it up and reissuing the problem?
When you
we'll know that in a month, so yeah.
When you fry your egg in your Teflon frying pan.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's a lot of exposures, as they don't use it as much in food packaging as they used to, but your pizza box that came with that non-stick coating on the cardboard that had PFAS in it, and that's why the cheese didn't stick to the cardboard. So.
Okay.
That was my theory for why we had it at Grove Pond, was that the National Guard on weekends would throw their pizza boxes over the fence.
It's a good theory.
All right.
All right, that's it. So you'll, once I get some more direction, I will be back and we'll have to see where we're gonna get some money. So, all right, great, thank you.
Mark. All right, so there was one announcement that was missed earlier, so I'm just going to do it quickly. This is from Chief Murray. And since 1994, the second week of April has been nationally recognized as Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. It is a time created for us to recognize the dedication, commitment, compassion, and professionalism of those charged with being the front line of every call for help or assistance made to public safety. The town of Ayer is proud to host the Ayer Shirley Regional Communication Center and is prouder still of the communicators who staff it. These 12 people play a critical role in getting the needed resources to your emergency with all deliberate speed and purpose. So on behalf of the Ayer Board of Selectmen here, want to publicly recognize Christopher Herstrom, Jonna Brissett, Darlene Boulot, Matthew Cawley, Max Goodwin, Aaron McNulty, Danielle Priest, Janet Provodakis, Donald Trink, Monica Maselli, Colleen Sheehy, Kyle Gordon for their efforts, and we encourage the entire community to take a few moments during this week to personally thank those individuals as well.
Yeah, if you've ever had to call them, they do a great job. For the minor things to calling for an ambulance, which I've had to, and they're fantastic. They're always good to follow through. They're very polite. I think I've sent a few emails to the chief over the years, just praising them on a couple different occasions. So, good job.
So thank you. All right, now we get to the fun stuff.
Cheers.
So Madam Chair, through you, I'd ask the Air Finance Committee to join us at the table.
All right, while everyone's getting real settled real quick,
and then I'll give an overview.
What do you want to tell us?
My thing, we're gonna put my cover.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll slide. Another chair there, too fat.
I'll give this to Terry, why don't you sit in this and you fucking need it.
All right.
What happened? Oh, all right. Would this chair be better? Good. Hey, I'm here.
While we're doing this, for those of you that don't know, this is our newest member. This is Selby Matthews. And
Matthew Selby, but I go by my last name.
He likes to be called Selby, so he's backwards like the rest of us.
Okay, Diamond.
Yeah, I've been called a lot worse. Believe me. Actually, today.
And then I do have, for the public, I do have some copies of the warrant, draft warrant, and the omnibus.
Yeah, I know. That's good. Another once, she was complaining, she seemed decent. Yeah, our Sarah speaks highly of our Jim, I'm a friend of Jim.
I like that.
Yeah, she's from Westford, right? It's nice.
Madam Chairman, as a point of order, I think I should call the Finance Committee to order if you want. I call to order now at 8:10 on the 16th of April, the Air Finance Committee meeting. Thank you.
Okay, Robert, lead us off.
So Madam Chair, members of the FinCom, good evening. So what I propose for this evening, I have a very brief, and I will stress brief, overview highlight of the budget. I passed out to each of you two documents. One is the final draft warrant, and this also includes the legal review. and a copy of the final omnibus, which is as generally printed in the warrant. What I propose, Madam Chair, I just touch upon some of the highlights, we go to any questions that there are on the budget, and then go over to the warrant. We can go through the warrant relatively quickly on many of the articles. I'd be looking for the Finance Committee's position on the warrant articles. Most of the warrant articles are sponsored by the Board of Selectmen, but in the past, we've asked if the FinCom either recommends the article, doesn't recommend, reports at town meeting, or no action. And then it'll culminate with the approval of the warrant and the budget as printed in the warrant by the board. It has to go to print this Friday by noon. The warrant will also include a detailed table of contents as well as the financial impact on each of the articles and the change of that impact from last year. So we're putting that together so voters will be able to do sort of a quick sheet, if you will, that has all of the impacts. Upon your approval of tonight, we will begin the dissemination publicly of all of this material, and I'll talk just briefly about some of the public outreach items that we're going to do. All right? So with that, I just wanted to hit upon some of the key points of the FY 2020 budget. And we're talking about the omnibus budget specifically. So what is before you is a $15,127,722 omnibus budget. That is an increase of $793,028 from FY19. The FY19 budget was a $14,334,694, or 5.53 increase. So the budget, as I have been saying in the board's updates, would be around 5%. The 5.53 included some costs from the library and so forth. Over the last 5 years, our trend on the increase of the budget has been anywhere from 3.8% to 7%. Obviously, one of the things we continue to talk about and take very seriously is the issue of sustainability moving forward. The budget contains no new personnel positions, and the budget does use $198,184 of free cash in it. Next. So what drove this increase this year? There were some factors which I'm pleased to report will not necessarily be the case in FY21. The first one, as the board is aware, and the FinCom back in November, we had the Middlesex County retirement folks here. Our retirement assessment was $236,643. That was based on a 111F medical retirement, as well as some other mitigating factors. Mr. Johnson and Ms. Tierney already have our assessment for next year, which is approximately $100,000, but this was a considerable increase. Also of note this year, and you'll see in the warrant articles that correspond with this, we had 3 collective bargaining agreements that were up: DPW, fire, and police sergeants. The total of those costs, and they broke out in the warrant by article, was $143,950. Next year, we will just have the town hall clerical union. The third point, the storm drains and culvert replacements. One of the things we have found over the last couple of years, and the superintendent of public works has made a lot of presentations on this, the storm drain work and the culvert work in this town is considerable, as it is in many New England towns, and the impacts that it has on stormwater are significant. We felt originally this was in the capital budget, but this has been a reoccurring item, and it was moved to the operating budget because it's been an annual item, and also, in this case, to sort of mitigate rate impacts for this year because of the PFAS and so forth. Why I point this out, we do have a stormwater enterprise fund, but we have no funding mechanism for it. And this is just a piece of the stormwater costs, which are largely unfunded federal mandates and some state mandates that I think as a town moving forward, we really need to begin to look at what do we do about funding the Stormwater Enterprise Fund. Health and life insurance, of course, there was an increase, not as bad as we had hoped. The 2% COLA, which is recommended, notes and bonds, interests, increases in police maintenance agreements, and talking with Chief Murray, all of their various agreements have been up, they've been re-signed up, there were increased costs in those. New OSHA and DLS requirements, an unfunded mandate that we were just recently informed of, and then the FICA Medicare. So if you add this together in approximately about 100,000 in a sundry, there's your increase drivers for this year. New items in the budget. Now, there's a lot of new capital in the budget, which we'll talk about when we get to the warrant. But just some highlights of sort of new things of general interest. There's a DPW GIS engineering internship program. As the board, I think I'm probably aware, there's a huge need for GIS. We don't have GIS professional full-time staff, so the superintendent has put this program together. The HVAC software upgrade, the control systems for this need to be upgraded for the town hall and town-wide, so that's a facilities request. And I'm sort of highlighting things that are underneath the 10,000 that weren't broken out. Lockbox services for the treasurer tax collector, an increase in tax title services. Ms. Tierney, since she's joined us in July, has taken a very aggressive approach, a proactive approach towards tax title, and this increase of the 7,000 for those services, we're very confident will generate even more revenue through those efforts. Our membership in the NEMLEC organization, which Chief Murray can speak to. Some Depot Square improvements, though these are largely going to be under the scope of the project. The feeling of the administration was to have some money to do some interim things during that period. And then again, you see the storm drains and culverts that we put in.
Robert, can I interrupt you and ask a question at this juncture? The storm drains and culverts, when you originally discussed it in the previous slide, which you do not need to go back to, you said that's an unfunded but annual expense and we should do something about it. Are you suggesting that we create a fund and this is the first installment? Can you elucidate on that a little bit, please?
Sure, through the chair. The issue of the replacement of storm drains and culverts, the superintendent expert, there's plenty of work there. Yep. The issue is he has a plan, we have a plan to begin to address the worst cases. Mm-hmm. We're looking at, it's been 70,000 the last couple years. This looks like it's going to be a reoccurring amount. If we could do more, I mean, that would be something to consider. My point is, we continue to fund this from the general fund, and we do have a stormwater enterprise fund, but the funding mechanism was never approved. It was defeated at the Board of Selectmen level some years ago, never went to town meeting. And that can be controversial, but in the interest of time, what I'm proposing is that, and this is just the tip of the stormwater, all of our stormwater efforts right now are 100% general fund subsidy. It's not sustainable over the long term, so I think we are going to have to address the unpleasant topic of a funding mechanism for the stormwater enterprise in the near future. That's sort of the takeaway for tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. So what were some of the key reductions or adjustments in the budget? The town council budget was reduced by $20,000. This was based on the recent spending history. I'm pleased to report, knock on linoleum, we have moved out of a period of time where we needed $130,000 a year. This puts the budget at $110 as opposed to $130, well within the parameters. Unemployment compensation, we were able to reduce because we haven't, our case history or unemployment history, we don't have one, which is a good thing right now, minimal. We did consolidate. The Board of Health did have a part-time admin support, which has been merged into the administrative coordinator. So there was some savings through that. The new Council on Aging Mart van contract, there was some savings there. The TADS program, that was the Teenage Anxiety Program, which we used to fund, has now been fully funded by the district as opposed to our budget. You'll see the Memorial Day, I put it there. This reflects the actual costs. If you look at the 10-year history, there was more money than that's been used in actually closer to 15 years, slight reduction. And then there was the Personnel Board, which we no longer have under the town manager form of government. Those were some of the key reductions.
Quick question, just out of curiosity. So we're reducing what the amount that the American Legion would be able to spend for Memorial Day? And do they know? I know it'll always come in.
Yes.
Under.
They do know.
Okay.
Yeah, and they still have, I'm sorry, Can you just find that for me?
Isn't it usually like $1,200 a year or something?
Yeah, so it was generally $2,000. They still have 1,000.
Oh, okay.
And they've never reached 1,000 in over 15 years.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. I just
And
wanted to make sure.
they are aware. And if that changes, of course, we'll adjust accordingly. Yep. So real quick on the revenue overview, including our enterprise funds, there's a total of $29,109,074 available for appropriation. There was an increase in revenues from FY 2019 of about 1.375 million, or about a 5.1% increase. And what was driving that revenue increase? The new growth, and this is an estimate from the Board of Assessors, new growth is 425,000. Our enterprise funds, 815,962, specifically water and sewer, as the FinCom, the board's aware, when you get the free cash certification, both of those were higher. And then an increase in the local receipts as sort of the main drivers of that revenue. Local aid, lottery, those things, relatively static. These were the drivers there.
Next.
Yeah. So then what Ms. Gabri has called sort of the budget tie-in, and this is sort of more of an overview version of that. At the top, you have the total available for appropriation. Then you have below that the omnibus before you, the ASRSD assessment, which you'll also see in the warrant article, the debt from ASRSD, the Neshoba Valley Technical High School assessment, the raise articles in the warrant. When we get to that, you'll see there's an article for vegetative weed control in the ponds. There's an article for basketball hoops. All of the raise articles total 143,000. Our capital projects that are for purchase, which you'll see in the warrant, total 288. Our GASB 45, our OPEB contribution, which I'm pleased to report is again 300,000 this year. The split is about 170,000 from free cash, and that balance from our meals tax. The UDAG replenishment of $230,000, that's regarding the Worthingdale settlement on the eminent domain at Depot Square. And then capital stabilization, 180,000, and stabilization, 10,698. The feeling is, as I reported to the board, and I believe I mentioned to the FinCom, our stabilization account is greater than our capital, and there's so much capital needs. We figured to emphasize the lion's share in the capital stabilization, but still putting something into stabilization. So, in conclusion, I am pleased to report that the budget obviously is balanced. It has to be balanced. Sometimes some of my colleagues make that sound like it's a huge achievement. It's required, as you all know. We have a balanced budget that also puts $300,000 into the OPEB. It puts 180,000 into capital stabilization, almost 11,000 in stabilization. This was also the first budget we had that had regional dispatch involved, and as I've said to the board, our intermunicipal agreement with Shirley is going to expire. It needs to be renegotiated, and we know that there are some added costs, and Shirley knows that there are some added costs that need to be factored into it. In terms of the presentation that we're going to use, we're developing, as some of you know, through the Board a budget booklet. We are going to, have our graphs and so forth, and have a new look on the budget. The other two things is I will, as I always do, a presentation on the cost impacts on the collective bargaining agreements. And I'm going to be working with the treasurer and benefits payroll on finding a way, the clearest way we can report some level of detail on the personnel lines in the omnibus, which we'll get to. In other words, you see this huge number, whether it's fire, personnel, services, or so forth. So there's some level of detail in head count or so forth. So those are some other goals for the town meeting. This is the omnibus version we've traditionally used that has the notes and the deductions from each department. I don't know if there's any, through the chair, if there are any questions or comments on that.
This is included in the email that you sent to us also.
Yes.
If there are comments, they should have been pre-formed, I would hope.
So if I might ask a question, the second largest increase I noticed was from the 3 CBAs.
Yes.
What are the breakouts of those? Because I understand that increase is only to fund the first year cost of those CBAs?
Correct. So through the chair, that if you look at the first piece in the warrant, if you look at Articles 3, 4, and 5, they'll give you that first year funding costs for each. So the Department of Public Works is $41,136, and the firefighters is $83,209, and the sergeants is $19,605. And what I've done at town meeting is I do a very brief presentation that shows the full impact.
It does?
To your point, yes, for the second.
It's like 2%, 2%, 2%?
Yes, all three of these, the wages on all three contracts is 2, 2, and 2.
Okay.
And the MOAs will be on the website, but I do a presentation for town meeting that shows the second and third year costs, which in all cases of these three does slightly, decrease. The first year is the biggest hit, especially on the fire.
Okay, thank you.
Are we going to go through each article and get some of the power?
Yes, if there wasn't, and we can come, back to the budget as well. I just didn't know if there's anything on the budget.
Do we have any more questions on the budget, gentlemen?
No.
Okay, so I think we can move on to the articles.
All right, I would just ask...
Can I just make a comment on the overall budget?
Sure, and I had one as, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to...
No, go ahead.
So I know that it's a large increase, and it's one of the things that Ms. Pomfrey and I have worked on over the years, and there were a lot of one-offs this year, but I do want to stress that, like to Ms. Pomfrey's point, we really need to look at sustainability going forward. And one of the things that I've always kind of looked at as how we can do that is when we estimate our revenues is to actually use a lower revenue estimate and build around that as opposed to using what is, because it's a guess, it's an educated guess, but it is a guess. So try and lower those estimates and work within those confines, and that way if we end up working within those confines, we have higher revenue, which has happened over the years. We can be in a better position financially going forward, and also, more importantly, I think keep the tax impact down to the residents and businesses.
Well, to your point, Scott, if I recall, we had slightly greater than $1 million in surplus from the 2018 FY to moving into 2019. I think that addresses your point that a little tighter budgeting might bring that number down a little lower, and we would have a less of an overall burden on income. I agree with you.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
And Madam Chair, and I would agree with Selectman Hood's points, as we've discussed them many times over the years. And I just want to add again, and we have, and as the town manager, I can say this with authority, we have the best people working for this town. And we have the best. They go above and beyond. We seek to attract the best. We want to retain the best. We want to remain competitive. All that being said, and I don't begrudge, and I want to make this clear, any of the personnel costs, but we are a municipality that is a service sector industry. Our largest cost is personnel, and we're not alone in this. If you look at the trends, we have some, as you saw just on my brief overview, the biggest driver at personnel costs, whether it's union contracts, you name it. To remain competitive, we have a challenge ahead of us. I mean, when the average public safety contract average, according to Middlesex Retirement's recent assessment, is a 4%, increase overall. These budget drivers are something of great concern that we need to continue to look at, where we can find efficiencies, where we can find some savings. I do appreciate, for example, in the contract negotiations this time, that the unions began to give some concessions on sick time and so forth, all things that drive it, but we're just beginning that process. So absolutely moving forward, our biggest challenge is the sustainability of personnel costs, and I agree on the revenue. So, all right, so with that, if there aren't any other questions on the budget through the chair, the warrant that you have before you contains 38 articles and 2 citizens petitions. The first thing I want to point out is we do need and Ms. Antonellis will also put it up on the screen, there is a need for a 2-article special town meeting this year, which would happen at 7. And you'll see there are 2 articles. One is to pay a prior year bill involving the DPW streetlight project. That was a grant-funded project, but rebates on grant savings under Massachusetts general law, rebates have to go into the general fund. So if you will, this is to correct that shortfall. It does require a 9/10 vote. It's a high threshold. Yeah, because it's a prior year bill. Then there is a supplemental appropriation, Article 2, for $50,000 for the transfer station. The factors driving this, and this is the supplemental to get us through the balance of this fiscal year. There were significant cost increases to recycling due to changes with U.S.-China relations, that all things global do hit local. So there were significant recycling increases, and there were some hauling cost increases as well. So those are the 2 articles of the special town meeting. Then we move into the annual town meeting. Obviously, Article 1 is the town elections. Article 2 is the salaries of elected officials. The salaries of elected officials are actually set by town meeting. The warrant article, as we've done in the past, does reflect the 2% COLA that I recommended there. Article 3, 4, and 5 are the 3 contract funding articles. And as Selby mentioned, this is the first year funding. So Article 3 is the Public Works at $41,136. Article 4 is the firefighters at $83,209. Article 5 is the Air Police Superiors at $19,605. Under my tab on the website will be the memorandum of agreements that have been ratified by the Board of Selectmen, and I do a brief presentation at town meeting, and we'll probably put that up soon or two to show the cost impacts. Article 6 is the omnibus, and for those that are new to town meeting, generally the moderator will read through this document this will be in the middle of the warrant, and ask for individuals to say pass if there are questions or comments. So that's the omnibus. Article 7 is the Ayer Shirley Regional School District Assessment. Article 8 is the Neshoba Valley Technical Vocational School Assessment. Both superintendents have been before the Board of Selectmen on that. Article 9 is the roof project for the Neshoba Valley Technical Vocational School. There are significant portions of the original roof that need to be replaced. You'll see in the explanatory note on page 7 that the estimated cost of Ayer's portion of this roof would be approximately $13,000 per year for a 20-year bond, or an estimated total cost of $260,000. Obviously, the district needs to get approval from all of the towns, and then they will go through the procurement process, but it's a pretty good estimate on the impact. Articles 10 through 13 are the enterprise funds, 10, 11, 12, and 13, and we do have a handout that we do give at town meeting on those. Article 14 is the revolving funds article. The town has already adopted the revolving fund bylaw consistent with the Modernization Act, but we're going to add 3 new revolving funds that you can see here on the warrant article: the Senior Activities Fund, the Senior Store Fund, and the Recycling Fund. And then, so those are the 3 new funds, and then below, and we'll try to make this so it goes on one page, is the funding limits. So the fire alarm fund is increasing to $75,000. That's the limit that can go into the fund. And then you'll see the 3, the senior activities, senior store are both 5, and the recycling fund is 10. The Article 15 is the capital budget requests that we're going to be borrowing for. These are all of the projects that were recommended by the Capital Planning Committee and presented to the Board of Selectmen, totaling $980,425 in borrows. There's the facilities HVAC replacement. It's all in the interest of time, unless there's specific questions, that all there. We will be prepared with presentations or slides to explain the various items. Article 16 is the authorization for the capital exclusion for the fire engine 2 replacement. As everybody's aware, there's an election next Monday where there's the capital exclusion question. If the question passes, it also has to pass town meeting as well. Article 17 are the capital budget items that we are paying for from capital stabilization. So generally, there's one exception. And per our policies, any item that's $40,000 or less, we try to pay for directly rather than borrow for. The one exception is the IT upgrade of the Windows 7 computers to Windows 10 at $60,000. And the total...
Can I just, oh, sorry.
Yeah, yep.
I just want to make a comment about the Windows 7 computers to Windows 10.
Yep.
The town has no ifs, ands, or buts about it, no choice.
It has to do it.
The federal government has no ifs, ands, or buts about it and choice. They have to do it because Microsoft will not service it anymore. So I'm just letting everybody know that unfortunately that's not one of those costs that we can really say, no, we don't want to do it. It's a no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Everyone in government has to do it, so.
Yep. And
it's a lot of fun, too.
I believe she's up in the back.
Cindy is sitting right back.
And I just wanted to point out the Town Hall Access Control Phase 2 and 40,000. Phase 1 is underway. It started today. All of the wiring over the next couple weeks you'll see. The access control project is we're going to go to key cards for the Town Hall. Again, that's $288,000 that is paid direct out. Article 18 is a capital budget reauthorization article. This came from the facilities director. The last town meeting, we approved $45,950 for the automated HVAC system for the police station. And since Chuck has joined us, if we reprogram this to be a town-wide project, then we can leverage this money against matching grant funds from the DOER. So what this article does is it makes it from police-specific to town-wide, same amount, so that we can leverage it for matching funds. Articles 19 and 20 transfer, Article 19 transfers unexpended bond proceeds from various projects listed in the article. So these are projects that have been completed, but these amounts are outstanding. And it transfers them, in Article 19's case, to the Grove Pond filter media replacement project. So we have to replace that media and that filtration, and it's a considerable cost. So as the Capital Planning Committee met, wherever we could reduce that and transfer, that's what these articles do. Article 20 takes some of that funding from received receipts from water, $48,781, and puts it towards the Grove Pond filter media replacement. Then Article 21, we have just a small amount from the Stony Brook pump station that was completed and transfers it to the infiltration inflow repairs. And Article 22 takes about $65,000 from sewer receipts and puts it towards the infiltration inflow repairs. Article 23 for $10,000 would raise an appropriate and transfer, from free cash to replace the basketball hoops at Sandy Pond Beach. Article 24 is the UDAG replenishment in the amount of $230,000 towards the Worthingdale Depot Square eminent domain settlement. Article 25 is the OPEB article I mentioned earlier, which totals $300,000. It's taking $177,000 from free cash and $123,000 from the meals tax, which has been a standing policy of the OPEB board. Then Article 26 is the first year general fund borrowing costs, $41,650. Article 27 is $30,000 for the aquatic weed control for the town's ponds.
Isn't that one like always? Don't we do this every year?
Yeah.
Putting that in the general fund, but there was some concerns over improper usage because it's part of line budgeting.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to remember the conversation. Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Article 28 is $5,000 to the Conservation Fund. Everybody recalls town meeting created that not long ago. And this is a fund that can be used to acquire conservation land. Article 29 is a DOR requirement. As everyone is aware, we have a community host agreement with Central Ave Compassionate Care. And these are the financial items negotiated by the Board of Selectmen with them, totaling $50,000. The DOR requires that town meeting vote on the designation of this amount, because all of this goes into the general fund. So this article will be to appropriate specifically for these purposes the host agreement. The stabilization fund, as I mentioned in the overview, $190,698 going to capital stabilization, $10,698 to the stabilization. Then the community preservation articles. The first article, Article 31, is their administrative article, which has all of the amounts for each of the categories. Article 32 is to transfer $12,000 towards the administrative expenses. They've had this article over the last couple of town meetings as well. Article 33 is the Ayer Community Garden Project in the amount of $41,000 from the open space category. And as everybody's aware, the CPC, you have to go through an application process. They've had all of their public hearings and so forth. Article 34 is the former Central Fire Station Historical and Affordable Housing Project. That totals $190,000. There's $150,000 coming from the community housing category and $40,000 from the historic. Then we have a series of easement articles. Again, no financial impact, but Article 35 is the acquisition of easements for the East Main Street project. These are required for that project out there. Article 36 is a grant of easement on McPherson Road. This is for electrical to the wastewater treatment plant. Article 37 is a grant of easement to National Grid for the transfer station electric lines up there. And then the good news, Article 38, if passed by town meeting, is a bylaw regarding authorization of utility easements. And if Article 38 passes, it would then authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue utility easements without having to go through the town meeting process. And that's consistent with really the Massachusetts Modernization Act and the direction that things are moving in. And then lastly, there are 2 citizens petitions, and just for everybody's benefit, citizens petitions are handled by the town clerk. If you meet the amount of signatures, our obligation is to print the petition exactly as we receive it by the petitioner and print it in the warrant. So the first citizens petition is a zoning bylaw amendment for large-scale solar setbacks. And this citizens petition was filed with the Ayer Town Clerk on April 8th, and the qualified signatures of 17 voters were certified by the Registrar of Voters. You need 10 certified, at least 10, to get on the ballot. This is currently under review by the planner as well as Town Council. The second one was titled Length of Term. And this is that we change the length of term concerning our elected officials so that they may serve a maximum of 6 consecutive years on the same board or committee. And it goes on from there. In the interest of time, this was submitted, citizens petition was filed by Ayer resident Ruth Maxon Schultz. The other one was by Mr. Kevin Horgan on April 12th with 10 qualified signatures. So that's the 2019 annual town meeting warrant.
Over under on 3-4 hours.
I'm gonna go under 4. One night.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. We should do it one night.
Yeah.
Be a late night, but it'll be one night.
Because those second night meetings get about 6 people to show up.
Then you don't have a quorum.
Maybe about 10 years ago we had one. That was the second night, if I recall.
Can I just say that the warrant, the whole warrant process over the years that I've been sitting here has smoothed out incredibly. This first couple of years, it was just like we had 50 copies, and everyone was trying to figure out who had the most current copy, and nobody could understand the article, and now it's all down pat. I like that. Yes.
Would it be possible, the second citizen's petition was mine, this warrant is really long enough, and it doesn't matter whether this goes on this particular warrant or the fall town meeting. Is it possible for me to ask that it be taken off this warrant and I can resubmit it again later? Because I've been at these meetings and people just say, let's get out of here, and so this is really a long warrant. I'm just thinking of the people.
Well, I mean, the people, it's yours, I suppose you could. I mean, people are already gonna be there for the first citizens petition, so, I mean, I don't.
I think you're asking if you have to get the signatures again to put it on the fall, is that my?
Yeah, well, that would be.
Yeah. Question for the clerk.
I believe it requires 100 signatures for a special.
It's totally up to you, I don't care.
Madam Chair, through you, the town clerk.
Yes.
So the deadline was reached, this was certified for this warrant, so you can just simply on town meeting floor request to remove the citizens petition article for discussion, and then you would have to resubmit it for any, if you want to have it for any upcoming meeting, and just meet requirements of signatures and everything. Yeah. So for an annual, it would be 10. If it would be any of the special meetings, it would be 100 signatures.
Oh, so is the fall an annual meeting though, or is that?
It's a special.
Special.
We only have one annual, and we have an annual meeting every fall, but it's considered a special meeting because you only have one annual meeting every year, so that's where it gets tricky. That would just change the requirements, but because it's already been certified with my office, you just simply stand on town meeting floor, or anyone can in wish that, ask to have it rescinded by the moderator. That's all, if you don't want to have it discussed.
Okay. Well, I really want to go get 100 signatures for fall. I'm going to do it now. Okay, never mind. Okay.
All right. Any questions, comments?
I noticed just going through that for the Board of Selectmen, there are 7 articles that are looking for our recommendation. I will make a recommendation for Board of Selectmen to recommend, or make a motion for Board of Selectmen to recommend Articles 7, 8, and 9, which are the school assessments. Articles 31, 32, 33, and 34, which are the community preservation articles.
31, 32, and 33?
33 and 34.
And 34.
Second.
What about 35?
Did I miss? Possibly.
And 36?
Sponsor.
And 37 and 38?
Well, let's add those on. 33, 34, 35, 37.
Because you're the sponsors.
Yeah, 37 were the sponsors. For 33, 34. Yeah. Sorry about that, I missed those.
So we don't have to prove our own articles as the sponsor?
Right, that's how we've been doing it.
All right, so we're just going to do it to 34?
Yes.
Second the amended motion.
All right, so 7, 8, 9, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. 31, 32, 33, 34. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Those articles are approved 3-0.
The Finance Committee will hold a meeting to go through the articles and vote on each one of them as appropriate and report that to Robert prior to the town meeting.
So, through the chair, so the warrant is going to be printed on Friday, so we have done, if you want it to say report at town meeting.
Oh, we can do that too. Or we can do it now.
We're saying we'd have to vote now in order to get it printed on the warrant. Or we say report at town meeting, have a handout that says what our recommendations are.
So one question that could be posed to the Finance Committee is, are there any voting requirements that are printed here that one would take issue with, or can we approve them as they require?
I had no issues. Yeah, I agree with the assignments we reviewed.
I don't have any problem with any of these.
I'm good with this.
Mark?
No.
Selby?
No.
Terry?
I'm good.
Pat?
All right, so I move to recommend for the Finance Committee all articles that require Finance Committee recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done.
So it'll say recommends. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
That's it, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
All right, thank you,
I
John.
recommend we adjourn the Finance Committee meeting of April 16th, 2019.
So moved.
Okay. So be it.
Have a good night.
You too. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think your explanatory notes, they're amazing. They're so helpful.
Thank you. Yep. All right. Thank you. All right.
Did you enjoy your chair? I did. Comfortable. Like my office chair.
Okay. Yep, so Madam Chair, in the interest of time, under my administrative update, you have in the packet all of the town warrants that were reviewed and approved since the board last met on April 2nd. And the primary focus has been, of the administration, of course, is the final budget prep and warrant prep. And with tonight's approval, really begins our outreach efforts. So as I mentioned, we will be getting all of this information out to the public in various forms, and I appreciate the help from the BUY board, which is meeting again on April 30th. We are going to have a budget book, which will be, when I say a work in progress, it'll be a good first start, and we'll continue to build upon it. We have a meeting on that on April 30th. We are going to do a question and answer sort of forum on the budget and any town meeting questions. Ultimately, the vision is to have this forum. We ran into a compression of time on the schedule. The schedule, I think, was a good start because it worked in many ways, except the compression at the end. But we will still do some public outreach on the forum and restructure that so that we have more of that dialogue coming into this. The other thing is we are going to do, starting tomorrow, what's going to be called article or articles of the day for those who do use social media. I stole this idea. I'll give full credit to a colleague of mine in Sudbury. So each day there'll be like a little snapshot of, say, Article 3 and Article 4, to try to generate some interest in synopsis in that sense.
You gonna do videos for these?
And we may, we're open to anything, as you saw, and I want to thank my co-star, Chief Pedrazzi. We did do the Engine 2 video.
You look nervous.
To try to get the word out on these things. But we're also, the BUY board, we're going to have a concerted effort on the budget presentation as well. Scott has put together some renderings that we're going to use, the graphs and so forth, for those that are, have that real, polished, a new look to it. So now we're in the full outreach phase. I would say that I will, after town meeting, like to give a brief report under my report about lessons learned in new opportunities for FY21. I think we made progress in a lot of, areas, and there are some areas like the compression of the schedule and some things to build upon. But I will say that a lot of good work is being done by a lot of people, and I appreciate what we're doing, and I think the spirit, we're trying to move in that direction.
If I can just briefly, I really thought the BUY board worked very well together this budget season, probably more so than we have ever in the past.
I would agree.
It was a good
Based on your
experience.
reports, I agree.
Yeah.
Just because I gave reports.
Yeah.
That had a big thing to do with it, yes.
So we'll, after town meeting, we'll do a little update on lessons learned in the plan for 21, some exciting things. One of the last things we've been toying with, and I know the minute you hear another survey or so forth, but it hasn't been decided 100% yet, but some have been talking about doing like an exit questionnaire at town meeting. What I'm getting at is, so when you go to sign in and you pick up your stuff, there's a sheet.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not scientific, but for example, how did you find the budget presentation? Or trying to get, again, some feedback as to what people liked, what they didn't. I mean,
well, the challenge has always been, what do we present and what are people looking for? And that's what we want to try and gauge from the audience. I've struggled over the years on finance committee. I think I've changed my presentations that I gave multiple times, trying to hit that sweet spot. And sometimes it would be a controversial article that we put information up on and it would pass without even a boo. So just trying to gauge how much effort we should be putting into the communication that we're putting out.
Now, were you hoping to maybe try to do the survey at this first annual?
We're hoping, yeah.
Like an exit survey. It was just.
I guess I think that's a great idea. I'm all for it. I just wonder if it would work on, for the first one, being at the annual, only because it's such a late night, will people realize that they have this and then take the time to fill it out? I mean, I suppose they could bring it back, but would they?
Yeah.
Or would it maybe be, something to start at the special town meeting in the fall? These are just discussion points.
Yeah, exactly. And
just to then maybe get them acclimated. That's my only concern, because I think it's a great idea. So just for discussion, I just wonder, because people are usually tired and they're just like, I'm out.
Yeah, I understand your concerns. Our goal is how we present all of this financial information.
Right.
And that's kind of what we want to get a feeling for.
Right.
So the sense on my board seems to be we do want to try to do it for this Springtown meeting, even though it will be a late night. The other item we want to ask them about is the budget book, because there's the grand plan of the budget book, which is a 3-year plan to implement and grow. We're going to have some of that available. We want to get feedback of what other information people may want in that.
I think that's a great idea.
So it remains a work in progress. This is an example in doing the overview, for tonight. Like, let's take one aspect of the budget real quick, revenue. Are people interested? They just want to know how much did the total revenue go up over last year in the percentage? Or do they want more detail or none at all? On personnel, the budget is got so much detail, but what are folks, interested in, not interested in, or what is useful, what is value, what isn't? I mean, everything I'm saying are rhetorical questions, but these are the discussions we've been having. So we were thinking, because you don't get a lot of feedback necessarily from town meeting when it's happening.
Right.
We've all been up there, and okay, are they cool with it? Are they ready for the next thing? Or have we lost people?
Right.
So.
No, I think it's a great idea.
So our outreach efforts will be the big thing now up until the 13th. I mentioned the wiring project is underway, so for the next couple weeks you will see wires in the ceiling, wires hanging down. The whole thing is underway, and we will move forward with that. The only action item I have in the interest of time is the Devon's Framework Committee. So our local effort is still underway. Interest has been low. We're still trying to find some folks. We have a couple of potential candidates for the local committee. However, Harvard had proposed, and you had the letter in your packet, and Mass Development seemed to agree as an initial start of all of the towns, Harvard, Shirley, and Ayer, the chair of the Board of Selectmen, the town manager, and one other person. If they had a local committee, the chair of the local committee, we don't yet, to move forward with the discussions about this feasibility study and it being granted by them. What I'm respectfully suggesting or looking for is sort of green light, red light on to proceed with that. I think that the model with those 3 people or 3 positions to start, I would recommend for right now, because we don't have the local committee, and once we get that up, he'd have no issue with this, is our 3rd person being Alan, because I already have him on the local committee and starting to do some of the data collection. So I'm proposing the BOS chair, myself, and the economic development director. For now, I think we should.
Why are we limited to the chair, though? Shouldn't the board?
Well, I think it was just a recommendation as far as to get a working group and
Well, I mean, I agree with
people's
the member, but I'm
schedule.
just saying, yeah, like it might work better
Right.
for
Because also
whoever.
Yeah.
from a continuity perspective.
Correct, yeah. I mean,
So I think that was just the
there's new
original
members.
idea.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and Selectman Wallace, right? Was that her
Lucy
last?
Wallace, yeah.
Yes. She had contacted me about a week ago to see where we had left off, which is why it's kind of been brought back.
Yeah.
Because they'd like to know if the working group can get started. But I agree, I mean, it's kind of running, it's like the J-Bus 2.0. It's really what it is. Hopefully a lot better. Yeah, I think this will be a lot better.
There's a limited focus
Yeah.
on the framework group,
Yeah.
this feasibility study, because there is interest and some willingness, because the devil's always in the details, for mass development to pay for this, but that's the main focus. I still think, and we'll come up with some more outreach, we should get, obviously, our local efforts, our local committee together as well. But, so yeah, but I guess the selectman, myself as the town manager, and Alan is who I'm recommending right now until we get that committee going.
Now, where is Shirley? How's Shirley doing
Just
with
read
this?
my mind, actually.
I mean, because the idea is that all three towns are going to sit there and at least have this working group.
Yeah.
Do we know?
My colleague, Mr. McGovern, has indicated he is open to this, so obviously it'll be him. He has a challenge as far as who that selectman will be. It'll probably be similar, it'll be a selectman because it's, hasn't been determined, a selectman and then a third person. They don't have a local committee yet either.
Right.
We at least have the charge for that, yeah.
Right. Okay, so if we go forward, what would be the next step? What, just trying to arrange a date for the first working group meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then whoever, I would recommend, whoever the selectman is from Ayer or myself and that person, either, we'll give the, periodic reports as it moves forward. But I think this has a shorter focus. I think it's to get the framework going.
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve Ayer joining the Devon's Framework Committee with members of a member of the Board of Selectmen, the town manager, and the town's community and economic development. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye.
Very
So
good.
hopefully at the next meeting, you'll maybe have a date or something.
Okay.
And we'll have to appoint who's going to be on that.
Yeah, but this is helpful because Mass Development is looking for, at least sometimes green light, red light on this framework. I think this is the way to go for this piece of it.
In regards to the local committee, how low is do we have enough days to get going?
No.
No, okay.
So we're gonna put our heads together on some other outreach and see what we can do.
Okay.
On that.
Same 30 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
For all boards and committees, unfortunately.
And coaching.
Coaching, exactly, yeah, good point.
So that concludes my report for tonight. I appreciate the board's time, and I appreciate your input on the budget and the warrant this evening.
Okay. Nice job. All right. Hillman.
Oh, sorry. Forgot to put this on. Who thinks this is a good idea? Which I read the articles in the paper, I didn't attend the meeting. I'm sure I'll get killed by Reverend Wells and all this because I brought this up in the past. This homeless shelter in a community of 7,000. And what say do we have? I am all for helping individuals in our community who need assistance, but making a shelter to bring people from other areas to our community to team up with the food pantry, which the food pantry is great. People come in and they do their thing. That's fine. But I read in the article, a lot of these people are sex offenders, so we have to, keep these, in a location that might not interfere with that area. It's just mind-boggling to me. We're not Lawrence. We're not Springfield. Worcester, we're 7,000, small community.
Geographically small. also.
Geographically small. I just don't, I think his intentions are good. I just don't get it, I guess. I don't think we have I don't know anybody in the community. Maybe there are a lot, but I'm not aware of it. But I know that are members of the Ayer community who are homeless.
Just real quick through the chair, I appreciate you bringing this up, just a couple of points. This idea, if you will, is from a private citizen, Mr. Steve Wenzel, just to be clear, because we did get some...
Well, and that was part of the reason I wanted to bring it up too, because some people get confused.
Right, we have got, the town of Ayer in no way came up with this idea. The town of Ayer is not sponsoring it or promoting it. I did have respective departments attend his meeting, and any member of the public can book space, to have a public meeting on this issue. So just to be clear, there's no, my people, our people went just out of interest. Mr. Wenzel, I've talked to him about this. I met with him. When I met with him, my suggestion was I am no way an expert on homeless shelters or homeless services. I said what I would do is find out everything that is involved with this, because there are state regulations, local, etc. I get all of that information, and then I would strongly recommend that your first stop be the Board of Selectmen. And I also said to him that there would be no support for this type of function on Main Street. And I use it as an example when this...
Right, and I can tell you, the community doesn't support anything like that on Main Street.
Does the community support it anywhere?
Well, and then I asked him to speak to our other departments.
It's hard in this town because we're limited. Where would you put it?
Well, I mean, that's my point.
I think
and I don't want to be that nobody, not in my backyard type attitude, but
I think that the community likes the idea, but also understands where there's no feasible place.
I guess my point is, like I said, I'm all for setting up something to help anybody from our community who is homeless. However, it feels like we're just an open invite to come to the homeless shelter. And what are we going to open up next? A methadone clinic? I mean, where does it end? What are we bringing?
Right.
What are we inviting from other communities that...
And he said, which perplexes...
And I don't mean in any ways mean that homeless people are bad or anything.
No, I know.
That's not what I'm getting at.
But what also got public calls is it perplexes us, because in the story he says it's going to open in November. I just want to...
Yeah, he's a kind of a charge forward.
There's no funding.
We had to approve a gentleman to sell cars tonight.
Right.
And I'm assuming it has to be some approval.
Right.
And there is state and local. So again...
Right, because you'd have to find a space, there'd have to be some funding, you would have to fix the space.
So
You can't just, throw a sleeping bag in there and say, hey, here you go.
There are some zones, I want to say, I'll check with Charlie, but, he'd have to be zoned for it. I don't believe that downtown business is. Then he'd have to go to the zoning board if he wanted to go on Main Street. I'm not saying he did, but that, so he'd have to comply with the state building code, zoning requirements, and then depends on where it's cited, different land use boards, planning board, depending on if there's how many parking spaces, conservation.
With all that, I mean, you're looking at a year before you can even start painting. So.
I have asked him, and he didn't have that information, but I know that Ayer PD would, and to his credit, Reverend Wells's efforts would as well, as to what is the homeless, census, and it's seasonal. It's different in the summer. As the board knows, the police are required, all police departments, to, do a census and outreach. That was one of the questions I had is there a need, and is that need justified or backed up by actual data?
Right.
I don't think so.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to throw that on the table because it seemed like it was, and I know it wasn't, but I wanted you to explain it publicly because
No, I appreciate
the
you.
little son made it seem like it was a foregone conclusion. I don't know if the rest of you got questions on it. I got a couple. In Peroni Park, an earful, there's night from people asking why we approved that.
No, I did as if it was a town project because of the article and the meeting was here, but it is not a town initiative.
Okay. All right, well, I just wanted to bring that up and we'll go from there and see where it goes. And then one other question, have you started with the 40B negotiations with the meeting we had, was it 3 weeks ago?
I think it was 3 weeks ago. Town council is aware of it, is putting together
Some samples.
legal samples. I've also had some information ideas submitted by different residents. So once we get that in draft form, obviously it has to come back to the board for review, deliberation, and so forth. But it is in the beginnings of the works.
And, you know, full disclosure to everyone, we said probably this wouldn't really get, until we were at this point, as far as having an approved budget and a warrant, we wouldn't really get into it.
Yeah,
till
right.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
It's understandable.
And there'll be some decisions, respectively, that the board will have to publicly deliberate in choices to make. But it is coming.
All right, so and I just thought of something, and I'm going to make it real quick, and this actually was something I was going to discuss at one of the meetings I missed. So the Central Ave intersection?
Central Ave, yes.
Yes. Why can't it just be 4 stop signs? There'd be a stop line, you'd be able to see. Everybody'd be able to stop and see that there was a vehicle.
Have you ever seen Massachusetts drivers at a 4-way stop sign?
Well, have you ever seen Massachusetts drivers? But my point being is that, you know, we started discussing it and then nothing, and then, you know, so what are we going to do? So
I'm actually glad you brought that up because spring is here now. I think we talked about, you know, the Neshoba Valley Medical Center does not need 2 signs there that obstruct the view. And I think there's something else on the pole too. I think there's a guide wire. There's a whole bunch of little things there that obstruct the view.
So what I will do, point well made, it is spring. Let's get some of these interim things done.
Yeah.
No one needs a sign to find out where the hospital is anymore. The GPS, there's no need for the Neshoba Valley Medical.
Right, and we're going to do something with the bushes and the,
crossing.
and I will ask, I don't know the answer to, I will find out
No,
about the
because
four-way
it just
stop.
seems like, you know, sometimes we talk about it, and so it's like, okay, can we stop talking about it and maybe do something? And that's not, it sounds like criticism, it's partially a criticism, it's not a criticism, because, you know, the DBW and Margaret's been very busy with the PFAS and everything else going on. But I think sometimes, you know, priorities and things kind of get back to the bottom of the list, so kind of pull this back up.
Agreed, and as we've discussed, it's one of the most dangerous intersections, so let's make improvements.
4-way stops, I've been doing a job on the other side of Concord at the Lowell Road intersection, there's 4-way stop sign. 3 weeks going over there, I saw 3 different accidents at the 4-way stop because people don't, you know, you go. Never, never happens that way.
I've seen good ones, I've seen bad ones. It all depends on who's driving the car, but we have to do something, you know?
No,
we have to do
understood.
something, so.
Understood, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, that was it. Anything else? No. All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from March 27th.
April 2nd, you want to do it together?
And April 2nd.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Meeting minutes from March 27th and April 2nd are approved.
When I first got on this board, we were about 3 years behind in minutes. It was ridiculous. Do you remember that?
I remember sitting in a meeting and literally having 4 copies, and and we didn't approve the meeting minutes because I said, we have 4 copies, which copy am we approving?
Let's go home.
Yeah.
I make a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Good night, everyone.